Hey guys, it's KSee here, sharing my character analysis of Jean. Unlike the others, I don't have any claims I'm trying to debunk about Jean per se, since the only things the fandom consistently says about him is that he loves Marco and or that he's a horse, so this is just a normal character analysis. I've heard a lot around the internet that Jean is the most relatable character, or at least the one who seems the most human. In this video, I'll explain how Jean's hypocrisy makes him seem so human by analyzing his character arc. When we first meet Jean, he is a very simple, selfish guy. He only cares about himself, and according to him, life is all about living comfortably, away from the Titans, and not having to worry about basic necessities. He's very confident in his own strength, and is very confident that he is a realist. Like most of us, he believes that he sees things the way they really are. Then the Trost arc slaps him across the face. Jean realizes that his view of the world was wrong. He didn't know reality, even though he thought he understood his situation. We see him become the character of contradiction for the first time. He's the one who least wanted to fight the Titans, but he takes leadership in the wake of Mikasa's horrible motivational speech and leads them all to the refueling station, where he feels the weight of the sacrifices of others' lives he had to make to get them there. Then he turns around and punches a guy on the refueling team for being cowardly. Despite his desire not to be blamed or judged for his selfish goal of joining the military police, he still blames himself when things go wrong, and therefore has very high standards for those around him to be just as brave as he is, even though they're often not. When faced with the decision of joining the Survey Corps or joining the military police, we see him contradict himself again. He's been the character most fearful about the Titans up until that point, but he is brave and chooses the Survey Corps. Being brave holds inherent contradiction in that you're scared to do something, but you do it anyway. In Jean's case, facing Titans again is the thing he least wants to do, but after Marco and all his other comrades die for that cause, he decides he can't ignore that and does it anyway. As the story goes on, Jean is pointed to as a potential leader because, according to Marco, he understands the weak, which is ironic in that his ability to inspire people is rooted in his own weakness. Again, we see a contradiction with Jean's character because he's a good leader who doesn't want the responsibility. After Trost, he has no illusions about the hard decisions he'll have to make as a leader. He values human life in a way the other characters don't because he's most afraid of death. So, we've established that Jean is a very contradictory person, but the underlying reason he is so hypocritical is his preoccupation with moral responsibility. His selfishness is established very early on, but as it goes on, we see his sense of responsibility begin to counter it. His selfishness and sense of duty are always at odds, but his responsibility usually wins out. Unlike the other characters, he fights Titans out of a sense of duty he feels to Marco and all his other fallen comrades. He doesn't have Eren's sense of justice or Armin's sense of the greater good. Jean is concerned with debt. If you are given something you must do, it is utterly wrong not to do it. He fights because he believes it is the right thing to do, even though it's what he least wants to do, and he chooses it on his own. He isn't simply a weak mind swayed by Eren's words. Though Jean is a very self-centered person in the beginning of the story, he ends up making the most selfless decisions on his own. From a thematic standpoint, Jean's significance lies in his view of morality. Every character has their own definition of what is right and what is wrong in the show, and they don't necessarily agree. As I said in the other videos, Eren considers justice when making vital decisions, Armin thinks the ends justify the means, and Mikasa does whatever she thinks is best for Eren. Jean, however, is the only one who looks at morality as something objective. In the concluding scenes of the first season, he asks Armin if it's really a victory for humanity if they abandon their humanity in the process of winning, to which Armin replies that whatever means necessary to achieve victory should be used. Jean is surrounded by his co-stars who are so sure of their own philosophies, speaking and living by absolutes that Jean sees as harsh and simply cannot accept. He provides a voice of dissent among the other characters who don't mind discarding their humanity for the sake of a larger cause, or someone else, but Jean clings to the idea that there has to be another way. What makes Jean seem so human, especially in comparison to the other characters, is his internal conflict of his moral responsibility versus his fear and selfishness. As humans are very self-contradictory by nature, Jean is relatable because his struggle against himself is very universal. Because Attack on Titan is not finished as of the time I'm making this video, we don't really see what they finally decide to do with Jean. Based on the relative size of his image on the Season 2 poster, I'm not too hopeful to go into it a lot more, even though I personally think they should. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Bye!